Good afternoon. We are here, and once again, it is our great pleasure to be in your reality. So, here we are. It is November 22 of 2020, and quite a number of years ago, in 1963, there was a great trauma that occurred on this date. And those of you who were alive at the time, you recall it as the assassination of President John F. Kennedy. And of course, there's been all kinds of wildfire conspiracies and cover-ups and shenanigans and chicanery ever since. It was psychologically a big blow to the American psyche. And of course, in the 1800s, you had the assassination of other presidential beings as well. But in 1963, you had electronics, you had television. So it wasn't word of mouth or telegraph. There it was, played over and over again, seen, and all manner of let's say, projections came out ever since. And so one could say that in modern era, that would be the root or the genesis of when people began to go dumb and dumber, to be fleeced, to be subjected to what later was known as psychic driving, delivering the same message over and over and over again. No conspiracy here. Everything's all fine. So-and-so just hit a home run, even though they probably didn't even make a base hit. In other words, you can, through electronic mediums, be easily hypnotized into believing things that have no validity in reality. In today's world, it's much, much, much more sophisticated. You're talking about almost 60 years or more later, the level at which you are told one thing and what you are seeing can be manipulated is beyond off the charts in terms of how much more power there is with media to confuse the masses. So if you are a bit confused, if you are uncertain, if you are befuddled and wondering if you are up or down or right or left, this is the psychological operations or psychological warfare that is rampant around the world today. So welcome here, those of you who are filling even the what they call the bleacher seats here at the Dancing Moon. We appreciate your attendance, and of course we have eager listeners in, let's say, many dozens of countries all over the world. We welcome all of you to consider the bigger picture of reality. We are the Pleiadians. We have been speaking through our vehicle for 32 plus years. And we'd like to announce to everyone that part of our mission is to make the cosmos great again. Donald Trump, he started something there. Make America great again. Now our vehicle was gifted a coffee cup. It said, make coffee great again. All right. We thought, well, why not? It's the perfect stance. Making the cosmos great again. But let's talk about making living, making life, making freedom great again. That is what we are here to do. And we appreciate your laughter. Everyone likes a good laugh now and again, and sometimes people compliment us on our sense of humor. And of course, our vehicle rolls her eyes a little bit, but we buff our nails. Remember, none of you would be here if it was not for we. So we are, let's say, the ringleader of the cosmic parade of all kinds of characters on your planet, in the US of A. Donald Trump is leading the parade. It is not only elephants, it is dinosaurs, and it is all manner of beings coming out of dimensions and timelines and characters from long ago are participating in what we would call a clash of titans. Now, when we use the word titan, what comes to mind? Anyone?
Giants.
What is it?
I say giants.
Giants, all right, yes, that's part of the legacy of Titan. Who else?
The Greek demons.
Who is it?
The demons of ancient Greece. They were like the opposites of the gods.
Yes, that's part of it. But Titan is known as the largest moon of Saturn. And Saturn is the planet with the rings. And Saturn is the lord of karma. Saturn has always been in a battle with Jupiter for power. Jupiter may be embodied by Zeus or some such, but Saturn wants to be the ruler. And in mythology, it was the children, we believe, of Uranus, the revolutionary one, just past Saturn, and Gaia, the name for Earth. There was a myth that they produced children, and these children attempted to overthrow the order at the time, and they were defeated, of course, by the big, powerful Titan of old, Zeus. And if you study Greek history or Roman history, you know that long ago it was reputed that these visiting gods, or in very large statured bodies, that they walked among the people. And of course, your academia has done everything to erase and scribble all this kind of thing out, just like the settlers of early America were already encountering many giants. And today, if you bring it up to someone in a museum, or perhaps you visit, let's say, an ancient rock carving site where they are filled with petroglyphs, and there's a trained archaeologist there, and as our vehicle did one time, she looking at a depiction and making up a story about it, and our vehicle said, well, have you considered that this would possibly be a depiction of a giant? Ooh, he was put off. There was a large crowd there, and he didn't know what to say, so he, in his put down, oh yes, just like Bigfoot, he said. And the people were conflicted. They twittered and snickered, but then they looked at our vehicle because she didn't look like she was fooling around. You understand? Yes. And so one of our mottos is, do not be afraid to give people something to think about, or to say something and let them stick their foot in their mouth and make a fool of themselves. But when people start looking at the bigger picture, you are going to have to consider so many factors. Now, we want to emphasize that there is a major uprising taking place all over the globe. And what are people uprising against? In the USA, two big things. The COVID constrictions and the out-and-out fraud of the recent elections, not just presidential, but all the way down the ticket. It's been an out-and-out stolen mess using, let's say, the scuttlebutt is that tens of thousands, counted out, tens of thousands of people in many, many, many states, they voted, but they are dead. The dead came out for the elections. That gives you something more to think about. And the election, of course, was just after Halloween. When the dead do come closer to the earth, they are your ancestors, and they walk among you. So lies, deceit, fraud about COVID and about the U.S. elections. And now a very brave soul named Sidney Powell, let's just say that we agree with our vehicle. Last Thursday, she fired the shot that was heard around the world. And she addressed this complete debauchery and corruption with voting software. And she said it's happened for decades in dozens and dozens of countries. Basically, this woman was confronting the New World Order. She is a David meeting a Goliath. But she's no short of stature David. Lots of people that are coming forth with courage and with common sense. They are the voice of the masses. Now, millions and millions of people in the USA are part of this, what we call patriotic uprising, where they are connecting the dots from New York to California and everything in between. And they're saying, this doesn't make sense. Then there are millions and millions of people who are frightened, who are in a trance, who are wanting to stick their head in the sand and find every diversion rather than deal with the tumult that is unfolding. So you have brave people and thinkers who say, open up and let's unmask. And then you have the frightened, the confused, as they are called, uninformed sheeples. And they are being led by the nose, by their masks, and they, like Fauci, they want masks into perpetuity, forever and ever and ever. They want to close the country down. Not only do they want to cancel singing and fun, but they want to cancel Thanksgiving, cancel Christmas, cancel every single one of your festivities, so that you are forced into a deeper fear of the pandemic, more social isolation, more economic destruction, and more fear around every corner of the, quote, invisible enemy. Now, from local professionals, pharmacists and doctors and things of this nature, up to, let's say, top epidemiologists in the world, there is an agreement that this is the biggest hoax that has ever been perpetrated on humankind. Let that sink in. Yet censor, redact, they used to call it when you went for freedom of information documents. Everything was redacted. Nice word for blacked out. Can't know, blackout, blackout, blackout. So today you have censorship, you have cancellation. If you are still looking at social media, you are wasting your time. Our work is designed to help you activate the inner intelligence that is, let's say, ready to burst forth like Old Faithful up there at Yellowstone. Old Faithful, the geyser, always spouting out at a certain cycle of time. So inside, there is a weaving together an intelligence among the cells, among the mitochondria, among, let's say, the spiritual support that surrounds people who are willing to think, willing to look, willing to know. This is stirring massively. And as we said, you are in what we would call a clash of titans. Means big forces could really find themselves in a battle extraordinaire. And so we are going to describe to you, to the best of our ability, what we see unfolding. Not what you want to hear. And we never say to you what you want to hear. We are not here to win a popularity contest. We are not here to please you and to keep you, let's say, hypnotized or in trance or going dumber and dumber in your own ignorance. It is difficult to be aware. And the stories that we offer you require maturity, responsibility, integrity. This is what you're up against. And as you know, as our students, this is not simply about two parties in the USA. It is not simply about, let's say, those who want to do good versus those who are corrupt. This is a clash of titans, of forces that are fighting over, let's say, not only the hegemony of Earth, that would mean the control or the rulership of Earth, but forces that are carrying out a cosmic battle as well. That's why we said we are here to make the cosmos great again, so that you can look up and understand what is unfolding. And do remember, it was a few years ago that Donald Trump implemented the Space Force. We've talked about this a number of times. And let's say that sometimes your leaders, those who are acting in your favor, cannot tell the public the entire story. There is, let's say, plans that need to be kept quiet. But more than that, the American public and the world at large has become so hypnotized with entertainment, with devices that they swipe and play with, and you've been dumbed down to such an extent that young people today don't know how to make change for a dollar unless they look at the cash register and to see what's happening. You have become dependent on machines feeding you information and doing your thinking for you. Very slowly, of course. But this is what's occurred. So much so that people are so stupid today that they don't know enough to carry money. And you are getting yourself ready for what is it called? The Great Reset is bubbling in the wings, let us say. And it is the World Forum there that wants to implement this sooner rather than later. And this would eliminate all of your sovereignty. Is this likely to occur? In some places, yes. If they crash the economy and crash the stability of whatever fiat money, that is paper money, that a country is dependent upon, this is a plan to implement this digital type of money exchange. We're warning you right now. Do not use your phones to pay for things. Get rid of your phones. If you are dependent on these cell phones and you are talking on them and playing with them and figuring things out with them, you are going to find yourself in the loser category. It is complete foolishness to fall for this kind of nonsense and to think that you are going to navigate reality on a phone. Yes, there is a great reset that is planned in an attempt to break the economy, to introduce some kind of digital currency, to reduce the population, to have the naive, the dumb and dumber fall for this kind of thing. But after a while, all these people will be eliminated as well. Because waiting in the wings is a whole new reality with technology. At the winter solstice, Saturn and Jupiter will meet at 0 degrees Aquarius. This opens a new 20-year cycle in Aquarius, the sign of air. Aquarius is technology. It is also humanitarian. It is also rebellious, very rebellious. So with Saturn, there's a lot of karma and loss and pruning and clipping away. And with Jupiter, there's a lot of it. Yeah, I'm warning you right now that you are going to, in order to control you and to control what many are calling the Second American Revolution, in order to squelch this, in order to confound you and befuddle your thinking, you're not going to be able to access electronic data with the freedom that you currently have today. Whether this comes from, let's say, New World Order types, of which Joseph Biden is a puppet. He is completely run by the Chinese Communist Party. He has sold himself out and his family and the government for many, many, many decades. There are books out there. Many describe him as the most corrupt vice president in American history. He recently bumbled out that he said, "We have put together the greatest, most extensive voter fraud organization in American history." Yes, that's to quote him, that's what he said. But to quote Obama, Obama said quite a while ago, you can count on Joe to muck things up. He used the F word. Yes, that's what he said. You can always count on Joe to muck things up. Gee, thanks, Mr. President. Nice assessment there. Joe is suffering from many, many problems. Many of the problems that he suffers from began when he was a child, due to secret societies and the ways in which he was raised and where he was raised. Small town in Delaware, known for nefarious dark activities. We'll leave it at that. So another way of looking at what's going on in the world at large would be not only a clash of titans, large forces of Earth, cosmos, etc. But also one could see this as cult wars. Cult wars. Cults are usually spring out of some kind of secret society. Now, there are all manner of secret groups that take oaths, some for goodness, and some to bring about dark evil. And people who belong to these, quote, secret groups, we'll use that term, it's a little more friendly, they don't go around bragging about it. They may have symbols that they wear. Those of you are aware of the Masonic organization. People sometimes admit they are part of the Masons, but they would have a certain handshake. And if you were a Mason and someone shook your hand in a certain way, you would return the certain grip with the thumb. And of course, then you would both go, he's in a lodge, I'm in a lodge. And as in any secret organization, there are those that are the newbies. They are recruited, initiated, and flattered, of course, that they are desired, brought into economic stability, and they can be part of local clubs that support the upliftment of the community. And it can be professional people or business owners or in law enforcement or medicine. It all looks good because we're here for the community. We are going to have charities and raise money, and we have parades and etc. But people are tested. In any group, go to Hollywood, attempt to break in. And if you have talent, someone might conditionally hire you for a part or something. Then you're going to be tested to see, did you come from an abusive background? That's almost a requirement today in the entertainment field. Why? Because if you came from an abusive background, it means you could be controlled. Means you would naturally be dissociative. When people are tormented and tortured by their caretakers, their parents, who belong to secret organizations, sometimes a dozen generations. Yes. There are people in the USA who would be called multi-generational abusers. It's not that they have nothing else to do, so they abuse their family. There's an end game. There's a point to it. Perhaps some of these families are just low-level joiners. But once you can be manipulated, and once you are initiated into the ways of corruption, and once you are driving a fancy car, or you're flying on private planes and eating in the best restaurants, and invited to shake the hands of your esteemed, let's say, elders that are higher up in the secret groups. People will do anything to be important. You have TV shows that are all about this. There's a program called Survivor. How can you screw someone else to come out on top? Yes? Yes. It's part of what human nature is. And it's not easy to be human. And in today's world, they're making it more and more difficult, more and more confusing. And so let's address this issue immediately. If you are confused, then stop with all media. Radio, TV, videos, online, phones. Throw those phones out. Get rid of those phones. Get yourself a landline and plug in an old-fashioned radio. Go online on your computer once a week. Check things out. Think Because even those of you who think you know what's going on, if you are subjecting yourself to too much electronics, you're going to lose your mind. This is the nature of the psychological warfare. So be aware of this. You must learn to unplug from your addictions. Because part of, let's say, what happens in the news media today, whether you are getting a text or whether you are getting some kind of response on social media, or you are hearing something that supports what you believe, what happens is the body produces its own pharmacopoeia. The body is quite remarkable, remember that. And we want you to give the body a chance to have this old faithful, this kundalini rising come up in you. And you do that by making something with your hands, homemade bread, weaving something, getting out the chalks, the crayons, the pencils, the finger paints, eye-hand coordination, planting your winter garden, even if it is in containers, arranging flowers, going out on a forage and bringing branches and looking at nature and bringing things together and making beauty. We guarantee you, you're not going to miss out on anything important. Someone will fill you in. But if you are filling yourself up with too much disinformation, and you are quoting this person, and you're getting this, and you're getting all kinds of conflicting things. This is how a mental breakdown occurs. Our vehicle reads the Epoch Times, and they every week are talking about the growing numbers of mental health issues, suicides, increases in escapism, alcohol, drugs, overdoses, severe depression. And the one thing that seems across the board to have lifted itself up into the forefront of most people's lives, which is anxiety. All of these words are not harmless. They are all symptomatic of having a massive nervous breakdown among the people of Earth. Yes, there is an uprising. And yes, the people are going to question the media. They are going to question the overreach. And they are pushing back the overreach of government, where the government is not for the people anymore. You have rulers dictating what they want. Look at California. You have Emperor Gruesome, we call him. He's ready to lock it all down over and over again. And then you have in New York King Cuomo, who has killed how many? People are appalled and aghast. And he's been given an Emmy Award for how he has handled this massive hoax of disinformation. And now he's writing a book about how great he is. And then he's selling these books. This is, well, why aren't the people and the people of California and New York throwing these people out? It shows you that once people are frightened and they are confused, they are under deep mind control, trance. As was written by Kathy O'Brien in the 90s, the plan was to put America into a trance. Not just to use MK Ultra techniques to program and traumatize one or two or dozens or hundreds, but to use trauma-based mind control, fear, to put masses of people into a trance, and then to convince them that if they do not have rulers, they will be harmed. And so all the crazy laws are designed for your good, even as the country and the globe is destroyed. This is why we sent Sidney Powell, attorney for General Flynn, and now representing Donald Trump along with Lynn Wood, both people, let's say, homegrown North Carolinians. Yes, both people right here popped up out of the southern soil as patriots to expose the truth. Now, whether you like Donald Trump or not, he is leading the parade for sovereignty and for freedom in the U.S. of A. And not so long ago, he ripped off his mask and said, "Don't be frightened.
Yes, he did.
Don't let this ruin your life, this COVID nonsense." Now, the numbers about COVID are completely being lied about. And of course, there are thousands and thousands of reports talking about how harmful wearing a mask is. And yet the big problem you are facing today, the media that you so adore and can't stop your addiction with, is censoring and controlling what you hear. It is like the Hunger Games. It is like 1984. And what's interesting is that people who are so steeped within this, they have no idea that what they believe is not true. They are angry to the extreme when opposed in their, quote, wokeness, a fear-based, scaredy cat state of consciousness, supreme victimhood. These are the issues. And there's lots of media blackout, what's going on in other parts of the world. There has been pushback from Australia. New Zealand appears to be quite complacent and compliant. Australians are pushing back. The Germans, they are marching by the millions in the streets. The Brits, well, we've heard that London is closed down, but people are irate. So the same things are happening everywhere. You have worldwide masses of people who are befuddled and can no longer think and take no stand. And they want a government that is socialistic, that is fascist, that is communistic. That means, basically, that there's no belief in a spiritual force. There's no belief in the spontaneity of a creative existence that works through and with every person. There is an insignificance to all of life, whether it is animal, vegetable, person, no matter. And that everything is random, and only the state is important. Only the state will take care of you. And of course, the dumb and dumber love to hear that their college loans will be wiped out. Yes, but they weren't smart enough to question taking the loans out in the first place, because they couldn't do basic arithmetic. They couldn't figure out that $30,000 to $200,000 as a bill after you graduate from school, unless you are a high professional, you are going to be a debtor for the rest of your life. People have been Ponzi'd for a long time. Another big tidbit that's rocking the boat everywhere. It's a pushback against, let's say, genetic engineering. Pushback against, let's say, so many deceitful practices that take place in academia, programming young children from early age, introducing them to sex when they are in 3rd grade, 4th grade, 5th grade, showing them movies and videos and basically saying, hey, anything goes. Do whatever you want. It's okay to switch this or to change this or to love this. And of course, parents are so busy working and swiping away, they have no idea what their children are being subjected to. That's why it's sort of good there that now the schools are closed and there'll be more programming from those who are forced to learn online. But there are those whose brains shut down. They can't learn online. But you know, America has a history of people being born in cabins in the middle of nowhere, one of 10, one of 12, one of 20. And they make good for themselves. Never attended school. They are self-motivating. And so make room in your consideration that the young people are being saved in some way from extreme indoctrination in class. And those that are going to class are going to be damaged for years and years and years, wearing shields and separated and masks, and you can make it into a game all you want. But a lot of fallout is going to come from these times. Now, if you heed our perspectives and you apply what we are suggesting, you can come out unscathed. You can move around this multidimensional chessboard with ease. But you must contemplate your moves. You must plan ahead. You must value the qualities, the principles that offer good living, exemplary character, kindness, and purposeful living. Because the entire world and cosmos is being involved in this big scramble, this big shake-up, the ramifications will be long-lasting. You can incarnate onto Earth thousands of times and have to deal with surviving, deal with whatever hand you are given. Today's world, many, many people are incarnating into the lap of luxury, of abundance, of plenitude. It's only been this way for a while. Remember, just decades ago, the people of China were as poor as they come. Today they are living all over in high rises, 80 stories. Are they better off? They think they are. But how much better are you off when you are living 80 stories off the ground? And when you look out your window and you see hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of other tall buildings just like yours. You become, at some point, disconnected from earthly living. But again, this time that you are alive is a massive rally, a joining together of the entire earth to confront its own future. And so each person must consider themselves significant, not only in your own life, but for the stand that you take energetically. And without going up against forces, find your way through it. The titans will clash. Of that there is no doubt. And your papers and your media will be full, or full of what they want to put out, of these butting of heads. Your job is to, as we've always said, to be stable and to act as stabilizers, to be emotionally balanced. As soon as you become emotionally unreliable, you might as well sit on the bench. And of course, this confusion, the befuddlement, the contradictions, the anger, it's all designed to stir up your emotionality. And in this way, you are more easily manipulated. So, lots going on here. In about a week or some such, you're going to have a lunar eclipse, November number 30. It's going to happen at 8 degrees Gemini, and about 15 days later, you're going to have a solar eclipse. Lunar is, of course, when the sun and the moon are in opposition, and solar is when the sun and the moon are in the same sign, conjunct. Big things happen around eclipses. Big things happen between eclipses. This is not going to be a holiday season like any other. There will be many, many people planning to cower down and to just be satisfied with their peanut butter and jelly cracker. And then there will be the defiant ones. And there will be those who will creatively eat outdoors and put tables 6 feet apart and make all kinds of accommodations of compliance to control world rules that are used. From our point of view, there is a virus that's out there. The numbers are being magnified. The tests, all the tests are faulty. They don't bother with getting tested because they are just going to either implant something up your nose or insist you have something when you do not. The hospitals, the medical professional is completely divided, and hospitals are going to lose a lot of business, probably really good, because half the procedures or more that they do in hospitals are unnecessary. Your medical profession does not work to keep you well. It works to keep you coming back for more. Yes. So COVID has been a plan long in the wings, and it was brought forth to create a global emergency, to befuddle everyone, and to see if people would comply and wear masks and be frightened and be locked down. Only for 2 weeks now until the hospitals get stabilized. Just 2 weeks to flatten the curve. And now 8 months later or thereabouts, people are still terrified to stick their head out the door if someone comes to ring the doorbell. Yes. They talk about cowards. Talk about nincompoops. Talk about effective mind control. This is what's going on. And if you know people that are vibrating with this fear frequency, you're not going to talk them out of it. The divide is established. This is why the clash is going to grow larger and larger. So, well, there's much more to say, but we feel we've laid the groundwork, and we've got a full room here as space allows, and we've got some big thinkers and some loyal students, and we've got some very attentive listeners out there on a global level who understand the power of the mind, understand the power of thought and frequencies. And so wherever you are, do not think that you are powerless. Every mind can change the course of how things move. Stay true to yourself. Banish any unnecessary fears. Live well. Don't go out and cause problems to create problems for yourself. You have to do a little compliance here and there, but don't fall for the fear. Don't fall for the disinformation. And when you state your intentions and say your prayers, call in the good forces around yourself. Activate cellular intelligence. Ask for that old faithful, your personal kundalini, to rise up and to light up your chakras, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet, and to call for great assistance to an earth that is awakening to many, many profound new considerations. And it's your freedom to think that will build the foundation for all that will be made great again. So let's start with questions. We follow procedures. You state your name, give us a little greeting, state your name, your astrological sun sign, and a question that will get everybody thinking, and we welcome all of you. So let's go for it. Who would like to begin?
Peace, this is Harold.
Harold, welcome.
Thank you. You mentioned...
You are?
a Sagittarius.
All right, loud and clear.
You mentioned the war of the cults, cult wars.
Cult wars. Yeah, we figured someone would pick up on that. We sort of slid it into the sandwich there, and you took a bite and you said there's onions in this sandwich. Go ahead.
And, I believe in the recent recording called Mind Muck, you alluded to the Manhattan Project, the development of the nuclear bomb, and the bombing of Nagasaki and Hiroshima, and how there was some type of occult intent or agenda behind that. And I was wondering if you could expound a little bit on what the Allies were trying to do. What was really... I know that J. Oppenheimer was very into the occult, so I'm just curious what that was all about.
Well, to jump back into what would be the 30s and 40s, you definitely had a buzz among scientific circles or secret societies or cults according to this nature, and forces were afoot. And of course the Nazis were supreme occult practitioners. Occult meaning hidden. Occult has also taken on the word to be dark. So people will say sometimes astrology is part of occult practicing. That's a little extreme, but if you are a supreme religious practitioner, then anything outside your pillar of consideration of religious okayness can be considered demonic, evil, occult, etc. But occult generally means hidden practitioners. It has to do with the sign of Scorpio. Scorpio ruling the 8th house in the chart, ruled by Pluto and Mars. Low end of Scorpio is the scorpion that stings itself. Then it moves into a sneaky serpent, which is like the kundalini in your body. And then the high end of Scorpio is the eagle that flies and sees all. So these practitioners can go back even to the turn of the century when you are talking about, who is it?
Crowley?
Crowley, absolutely. Aleister Crowley and the sex practitioners, Because a lot of times when you break through the barrier to bring invisible forces in, or to recognize the influence of invisible forces, then people used to offer sacrifice. When people wanted goodness and help from other dimensions, they would create flowers, or maybe a food offering. In Bali, they do little decorations of rice and fruit and things of this nature to give an acknowledgement of the good forces that keep a society in balance. And they also acknowledge the dark forces and give them little offerings, and they put them on the ground for the dark forces just to keep them appeased and in balance. Bali is a small island off of northern Australia, Indonesia, next to Java. They are a Hindu-oriented society, but they understand that forces must be kept in balance in order for goodness to prevail. They do not pretend that the dark does not exist. So the idea of these sort of influences goes back to ancient times. Now, to jump ahead to the 20th century, practitioners that wanted to get support from non-physical intelligence for their projects would often get involved in sex magic. Group sex, that's nothing new. The bacchanals that used to be celebrated all over England occurred at Beltane. It was a May 1st celebration long ago, where people got a little inebriated, to say the least, and it was a wild fertilizing festival. It's often said if you were conceived at Beltane, May 1st, no telling who your father was. So the use of sex, one of your most powerful forces in the body, has long been utilized for rituals, for blessings, for sacrifice. And so it was that people who wanted power started doing dark things with sex. And of course, they attracted forces that said, hey, we've got some people down here that we can work through. What you want to do as a human being is you are the one working through your body. You all have deceased relatives, and you have friends in the cosmos. But if anything takes you over, then you have given up your sovereignty. This is what's happened with many people. And they got taken over by forces, and once the forces come in, they start to rule the family. So this has long been going on. The Nazis that were brought into this country were inculcated into certain groups that were already here, and they became worshippers of the dark. And they taught this to their children. There's a lot of speculation out there that many current members of your intel agencies are the children and grandchildren, and in some cases great-grandchildren, of the Nazis that were brought into this country from Operation Paperclip. It's not just your country, it's all over the world. And could this have been prevented? It's necessary. It's a part of what goes on in existence. Just because your forefathers and foremothers established freedom, it does not mean it's there in perpetuity. Each person must maintain their own vigilance and be able to think. So it's widespread. Today, it's quite widespread. There's lots of dark practitioners, and as we see it, the team that recruited Donald Trump and that holds him and keeps him in position, because he's certainly not a singular, they are working to eradicate such activity. Recently, just last week, it was reported 170 pedophiles, that means those who have sex with children, were arrested in Florida. This goes on continuously, not made a big deal of, but let's say the party's closing in. Another something to put in your hat when you are talking about secret societies and secret cults, etc. It's announced that Amazon has just come out with a new gender-identifying software. Guess what that means? It means that some famous women, can't mention any names really, but the initials are M and S, two separate people of course, are really men. This is going to create a big conundrum when people start realizing that the level of deceit has been so massive. And, of course, a lot of this is, it gets its roots in cult activity. And people are, let's say 50, 60, 70 years ago, they were encouraged to turn their children over to the projects, the intel projects. Whether you were a corporate worker or a doctor or a politician or anyone who got up there in the ranks, military, send your kids to our school. Or if you really want to be a part of it, the doctor may say, well, would you be interested in changing the sex of your child? So this is how some of it starts. And it has reached a level of dysfunctionality, of deceit, of lies, and the American public has been so brainwashed with electronics from the 50s onward, they no longer have, many of them, insight and intuition. They no longer have that country bumpkin, something ain't right here. They've lost that. You understand? We did that pretty well, didn't we? Yes, we have mimic talents. Our vehicle does as well. It goes with the territory. It's called a knack, so to speak, a knack. So we're glad you are chuckling and laughing because we are delivering some pretty intense data. So, Harold, does that give you a little more of a background of what people are playing with?
Yeah, so basically it was dark versus dark. The Allies doing their whatever with the nuclear bombs versus the Nazis doing whatever they were doing.
Yes, because yes, exactly. And yet, how is it sold to you? We are the good guys because we have the bombs, so we are going to destroy you. But all of those that were working to get the race to restore the knowledge of how to make nuclear weapons, which again is to remind everyone of the planetary history. So it goes from the Sumerian text that an Anunnaki by the name of Alalu was deposed nearly 500,000 years ago and left the 12th planet and came to Earth and brought an arsenal of nuclear weapons. So whenever you are dealing with nuclear, we have often said it is a code for ET. When countries talk about nuclear armament or disarmament or nuclear this or nuclear that, that is a code for ET. And which ETs? The Anus. Now, there are other influencers, of course, And when you are getting into the animal house of extraterrestrials, there are more disinformation agents than there are information agents. Psychics and readers, they are often taken over by forces that are lying to them. Just because someone is a psychic or an astrologer or a reader does not mean they have a clear line to the truth. It is going to depend on that individual's personal work, character, value system, clarity, belief system. So much in today's world to take in and to consider and to navigate, yet do not let it throw you off course. All of the corruption must come to the surface. And you have about 5 more years where you will be dealing with mind-blowing exposés of corruption on the rulership level. That would mean Pluto, which right now is about 23 degrees or some such, moving through the last 7 degrees of the sign of Capricorn to about 2025, 2026. Yes. So, who else has a question, a comment?
Hey, is this Dorsey?
Dorsey, welcome. You are a Leo.
Yes, I'm a Leo. I have a question, but I know your vehicle said something about just her opinion that once Kamala is in there, she may bring in Hillary.
Kami, as she is now being called.
Okay.
Kami.
All right,
Kami, yes, and she's also put herself on the Harris-Biden ticket quite a few times, and then had to switch back. And the other day, someone asked Bumble Bunny Joe there a question, and he bumbled his way through it. And after he answered it, there was a lot of head scratching and what did he say? It didn't make any sense. The next reporter said, Mr. President-elect, is it all right if I ask Vice President a question? Oh, certainly. I'm off the hook, he says. She thinks she's running the show. She's going to be, let's say, Biden is going to be finished before he begins. Yes? He's not going to last. His astrology is it's in wipeout mode, and we explained that he's going to have he's going to be removed. No one needs him anymore. And then Kami thinks she's got the spot, and she's all giggly and no more finger pointing. She's ready to run the show, and but her problem is this: her son is 27 degrees Libra. She's born at a full moon. She has moon opposite the sun. 27 degrees Aries. Yipes! All those planets moving at the end of Capricorn, giving her the business. She will be taken down as we see it. Exposed as being exceptionally corrupt, and in it to above her eyebrows with some dark lords that come out of England. But do go ahead now and ask your question.
Well, because on November 9th, someone inquired, asked Siri, said, Siri, how old is the president?
And say this again, on what date?
On November the 9th.
November the 9th, 11/9.
Right. They said, Siri, how old is the president?
And Siri is an electronic reference like Alexa.
Right.
Yes. So that you have a little device, and rather than thinking, you just ask these already intels a question.
Right. Correct. And the response was Kamala or Connie Harris, Kamala Harris was born 56 years ago on Tuesday, October 20th, 1964. So this person, when they inquired about it, then they changed it to President Trump. So is that a serious Freudian slip or what?
Well, Siri could have gotten mixed up, yes, because again, these are confusing, befuddling times.
Why not Joe?
Well,
Skip Joe?
Joe is already Joe is no longer needed. Joe was utilized. Not only does Joe have severe case of dementia confusion, but he never knew what was going on. That is why Obama said you can count on Joe. He was what some call an empty suit, a Trojan horse, a prop up, and people think, oh, well, Joe, we want Joe versus that horrible Trump. The problem is that no one voted for Joe. Joe came across as he is, a no one. And Kami couldn't really on her own, with her personality being such a scold, and very self-righteous, she couldn't win on her own. So it's all stealth and positioning. Now, do not think that the Trump team didn't see all this coming. And of course, there's big scuttlebutt out there that the Trump team has been using time-jumping technologies the whole time. And the team that backs him, which you could say is part military, part intel, that they are privy to technologies that you would consider to be super advanced technologies. Remember, Nikola Tesla was born 1850, and he brought all these outrageous technologies into the late 19th, early 20th century, over 100 years ago, and who was also privy to many things. Now, the patriotic movement is not something that's born today in response to the 1770s. There are those in the future, such as we. Oh, we hear the beeper. Thank you. There are those in the future, such as we. We were upfront about our identity from the beginning. We said 32 years ago, we are your kin. We come from the Pleiades, and we come from the future. And we are here, along with others, to deal with the tyranny and to create a route around it. A route around it meaning not a war to destroy, but again, at the quantum level, where reality bends, where we used to call it Bender's Bistro on board. Yes, that is the name of the very famous location that many of our students remember. Bender's Bistro on board, where all the decorations, the tables, everything is black and white checkered. Everything. And those who think benders of reality go there to choose at the quantum level whether they want to be in the wave or the particle, whether they want to be in goodness or whether they want to be in tyranny. And so we are not the only ones who come from the future into a time when outrageous things occur that determine the course not only of the USA and of Earth, but as we said, in your time, a tyranny is created and it reached us in the Pleiades. So much so that we as Pleiadians, all from different slices of time, coalesce together. And our vehicle was the chosen one from our point of view, where we would, let's say, call the home station to operate out of. So on a very practical level, you have old patriots who are reincarnated, lots of them from the 1770s, big players. We are not talking little players. We're talking Sidney Powell, she's loaded for big game. She's loaded for T-Rex. Anyone remember fighting a T-Rex? It is big, big, big stuff. And so what people can conceive of, the situation is so massive. There are so many timelines, there are so many issues, and there are so many non-physical forces of a ferociously dark nature that have embedded not only on Earth, but on the moon, in your solar system, and in the cosmos. This is not simply a stand against voter fraud. This is, with Trump again, leading the parade. You can just see him with his baton, and his top hat, and behind him are a herd of trumpeting elephants. Yes. Picture it and give it power. And keep your sense of humor. But it is a big one. And it will go on. It will resolve itself in some capacity at the end of the changeover years, which we included from 2013 to 2028. Big stuff. Very, very, very big stuff. Does that give you more to think about, Dorsey?
Oh, yes.
And listen, all of you, we're going to take recess in just a moment. Remember to plant seeds. You're not going to change people's minds by arguing with them or debating, but drop a little something now and again. Just a little tidbit. And then say, well, you know, there's much larger forces at play, and I've heard that the ETs may be involved in all this, and it's really a cosmic battle, and oh, love that suit you have on, and your hair looks great today. Oh, this gravy is just fantastic here. This bean casserole is just tippy-top there. Care to share the recipe? There's ways in which you just, oh, so-and-so over the back fence. It is everyone's job to give people something to think about and then move on. Yes? Move on. Because we're all here to make everything great again. And so now it is time for recess, and come back with your thinking caps on, your intuition super heightened, and of course, Old Faithful geysering through your body and your chakras. We'll see you in a little bit. Thank you.
Thank you.